live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
YouTube, man, oh man, got caught up in the green room talking about Akon, talking about our weeks, talking about romance. This is Sleepless with Steve, live and in living color on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. First Wednesday in October, gents. How we feeling about spooky season?
I cannot wait to dress up for like whatever show we do that's close to Halloween.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. We're going to have to dress up on October 26th. And you know what? I was just working on the schedule earlier today. We should probably review a classic horror movie because I was like, you know what? It's probably not going to be perfect. And I just all conceptualized this in the last 30 seconds. It's probably not going to be a good look if we all dress up in Halloween costumes and then review the Emmett Till movie. That's probably not a good vibe.
I was even thinking, I mean, we could talk more in the green room. I was thinking of actually just talking about, because by that time, Halloween Ends would have been out. And I would like to just recap this year of horror films in general, because this has been an outstanding year in horror films.
That's your story, my man.
I like that idea so much so that I'm pulling up the schedule and I will modify it. So I guess we've already decided why focus on this week's show when we could focus on a show 3 weeks from now.
Yeah. Some would say that the director of this
though.
movie didn't focus on the movie, but hey, like that's just me. But
free smoke, anyone can get it. That's why it is free. So yeah, it's settled. So October 26th, we're going to be talking, recapping 2022 in horror, which is going to be, I think, a really good show because, I mean, if you think about it, I don't think there's any more really huge horror movies coming out by the end of the year, at least theatrically. I could be wrong, after Halloween Ends. I don't think there's any other major ones because usually horror dies after like middle of October.
Evil dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight. I'm gonna watch actually next week. I'm watching Halloween Kills, the extended cuts on Peacock. I've not seen the extended cut yet. I think we were all almost collectively bigger fans of Halloween Kills than critics and audiences really. I like that one more than the first one in some aspects. So I'm really excited to talk about Halloween Ends, and I'm really curious to look at what this extended cut's gonna offer. But other than that, we will burn that bridge when we come to it, as I like to say. But Steve Pulaski, Joe Viso on the theater screen, Dominic Guanzon in his trademark blue polo. We are coming at you live and in living color. Dominic made it on time this week. Wasn't preoccupied like he was last week, but he came. Last week was beautiful. He came just in time for the Munsters to talk about that movie.
Ironically, like the more interesting movie to talk about. Because
Yeah.
Pearl, I think we were all. I was
okay,
listening
yeah.
on the way home, and it's like you guys nailed it. That I agree with everything. The only thing that all three of us neglect often in interviews is the score. We always neglect the score, and I'm gonna forget, but I'm gonna try to hone in a little bit more on the score. But I will forget this week because there really wasn't much there. But in any case.
Yeah, we're backpedaling a little bit, talking Don't Worry, Darling this week. That's going to be the big review of the show, which is, still relevant. I mean, still relevant, still making money at the box office and whatnot. Would have liked to review Smile, but just with the way Pearl and the Munsters worked out, we already had to double up last week on Pearl and the Munsters. So Smile had to kind of go by the wayside and stuff, but I saw it. I really liked it. I just want to briefly say, you guys haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I was planning to go see it this weekend, and we had an event on Saturday, and Sunday I was just so tired that I was going to do a double feature on Sunday. I didn't get around to it, but I was like, well, all right, I'll just have to just only do Don't Worry.
I might go into it more when we do our newly planned recap show, recapping horror movies for Halloween week. I might go into it more then, but I'm just going to say, like, really good movie. Probably never gonna want to watch it again though, because I'm just gonna say this with Smile on a serious note. Like, and I did not. I kind of got this idea from the trailer. I didn't read a lot about it, but going into it, didn't take me long to figure out what kind of the undertones of this movie were. If you yourself suffer from mental illness or have been around and in the presence of somebody, either a close family friend or a relative that has, and I'm the latter, not the former, it's going to be an uncomfortable friggin' sit. I'm just letting you know that right off the bat. This thing should come with. I'm not a big trigger warning person, but like I was glum as hell coming out of that movie because I was not expecting it to be as heavy into the mental illness angle that it was, and some scenes were deeply close to home for me, which I was not expecting. So that was definitely something I think is a fair warning for people with this movie.
It's
so very good.
I was gonna say it's so weird because like I forgot what horror movie it was. Pearl. I went to go text Steve. I was texting Steve while I was waiting for Pearl to start because AMC shows like 30 trailers plus our national anthem sung by Nicole Kidman and everything. That I was texting him and I was like, man, I'm like, this has been like a great year for horror, but this movie Smile looks like total shit. And then like he's like, I agree. And then it comes out, and it's like getting like positive reviews. Steve gave it a really like positive review, and I was just like, okay, I guess I have to eat my fucking words now.
I was always looking forward to it in a way. Like I thought this had a higher chance of going bad than it did going well.
Yeah.
But because I was really happy that they carried out the teaser trailer as long as they did with it, like where it was just the patient smiling in the hospital and then saying you're gonna die, and then that was it.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those it's kind of a Frankenstein movie in one of those regards where it's like stitched, like there's a little bit of The Ring, there's a little bit of It Follows, there's a little bit of like different recognizable horror movies in it. I did like it, though. I did really like it. It's just not one I think I'm ever going to watch again, truthfully, just because of how uncomfortable it made me on a personal level. But it is worth seeing. It's a perfect movie for this time of year. But other than Don't Worry, Darling, though, as I table my thoughts on Smile till probably the end of the month, we're also going to be touching on and hopefully putting to bed the Alec Baldwin Rust story. Which has kind of been, I think this is, if my odds are correct or my tally's correct, I think this is the 6th time we've brought this up on the show because we've had to talk about the aftermath, Alec Baldwin's response, Alec Baldwin's interview on it. We talked about the spider bite incident, which I think was really underreported. We talked about that. We talked about a few other things with this. This has kind of been the overarching storyline here, and I guess this will probably get replaced by MoviePass as soon as MoviePass gets its friggin' act together.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
So we'll get to the whole Rust settlement. Dom will lead the discussion on that later on, towards the back half of the show. Without further ado, without further tangents from yours truly, let's talk Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry, Darling. One of the most anticipated movies of the fall. One of the most marketed movies of the fall.
Yeah.
At the very least. Like this was kind of looked at, and I mean, it has made money. It has made decent money in theaters. It was kind of looked at, Hollywood created its own problem of like not releasing really anything super noteworthy in the month of August and really kind of just waiting a large gap between the end of July and between like Nope and Don't Worry, Darling. Like those were the two sort of anchor movies. Excuse me. Two of the anchor movies there. So this comes with a lot of press to it, and I don't want to get into it much. I haven't followed it a lot. I've only kind of read headlines and a little bit, just blurbs really, about the onset conflicts, I guess is what we're calling them, about this movie. The Shia LaBeouf controversy, the Olivia Wilde, Florence Pugh beef, the Harry Styles versus Chris Pine beef. Like this just seems like, from all accounts, just from what little I've read, this seemed like at the end of it like a very miserable movie set to work on. Like this seemed to be plagued by drama, to the point where I was using my tagline when people would bring it up to me. I would say, "I'm worried, darling." I would say, just about this whole thing. So we're not here to review the controversy. We're here to review the damn movie. You can go elsewhere for the different commentary, the Enquirer, if you will, the National Enquirer, for all the other gossip on this. I'll just end by saying this. My favorite tweet on the Don't Worry, Darling saga was, it's a classic case of in Hollywood of quote unquote, we fucked in the trailer and then things got messy. So that's where I leave things with the controversy. And I just don't give a damn, truthfully, about celebrity gossip. Like, it's usually news to me when I find out who's dating who's cheating whose car is parked next door. I don't really care. Never have, so that's just me. But at the end of the day, though, The onset controversy though is juicy because it gives you a lot to chew on. Kind of unlike this movie in a lot of regards. This movie is it's a cult movie. It's a cult movie in a lot of ways. It's the Stepford Wives. It's very similar to that. It's very similar to that sort of sorry guys. Very similar to that, kind of a Mad Men style movie premise there. And it's also a little bit Suburbicon. A little bit of George Clooney's Suburbicon. You know what? While I get my act together and choke to death, Joe, why don't you take the wheel on this?
Yeah, man. I mean, you're hitting the head on. You're hitting the nail on the head. There is what I meant to say. This movie, like visually, is very pleasing to look at. I love the aesthetic of this whole 50s like era. It looks so cool. Dom knows this, but like Fallout, the video game series, is like, very much futuristic sci-fi, but it's like imagine in the 50s and 40s, like we like just didn't go past that with like aesthetic look. And I've always been a big fan of that. I think it just looks cool, especially like just the clothes, the cars, everything. It just looks so unique. So I will say, visually, Olivia Wilde, you have done a great job with this movie. I think the cinematography is great. There's some really nice shots in this movie of like, there's like this like repeating factor of Florence Pugh being a housewife, and every morning she repeats the same thing. She makes her husband Harry Styles, Jack is the character's name. She makes Jack breakfast. He pulls out the driveway the same way. They all come, and like, all the people in this cul-de-sac pull out like, at the same time. It all looks like in sync and everything. She goes about her day, makes meals, cleans the house, does all this stuff, all in this like 50s aesthetic, and it just looks so. It looks really cool at times, and I really loved how it looked. I'm trying to stay positive here. I'm fighting to stay positive. Dom, please take it. Let's talk about some more positives about this movie. Oh, Florence Pugh. That's one.
There is, the more I think about it, there is more to compare between Don't Worry, Darling and The Munsters than you realize at first. Joe touched on pretty much that, but I'm gonna refocus the frame. I'm gonna focus the framing on that. Technically, I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Right. Some cool shots, some cool, dream sequences, a very, very nice aesthetic. And if it looks too clean, too nice, that's the point. So they play into that very, very well. And the acting here, I've heard some mixed things on the acting. People are like, "Oh, you're overacting," or it's really hard. Overacting is a very, I'm no thespian, but it's a very loaded word, yeah. Right? It really kind of informs you on what they think of the rest of the movie. It's very hard to really take in isolation. It takes a really principled person to do that. Joe,
I was gonna say I actually thought performances across the board in this movie were fine. I thought Florence Pugh obviously stole the show. She's like a future two-time Oscar winner in the making. Styles, I thought, everybody was crapping on him when that Twitter clip came out. He did fine.
It's some good moments.
I mean, like, literally the moment that I thought, like, oh, here we go. It's going to be his big dramatic moment. They make him dance. And I was just like, okay, never mind. Like, I thought he was going to give, like, some...
That was just weird, regardless of acting. Just really the decision to do that was weird for the character. That's on the writers.
Wilde herself, like I said, I think... visually, her direction was very well done, but even in the movie, she's good. I always thought Olivia Wilde was a good actress herself, and I've always wanted to see her in something better. And Booksmart, like, caught me completely off guard, just 'cause it showed her directing chops very well. You have others, too. They're not as much in the movie as Florence Pugh and Harry, but Chris Pine, Gemma Chan, Nick Kroll even. They're all good. Everybody's good in this movie. Steve, do you have any positives you want to add on?
Positives. It's in color. No. No, I will say the one thing you have to address, and I heard you guys talking about it. Harry Styles was going to always get a lot of buzz with this thing.
Yeah.
Just by his very nature. I like Harry Styles as a pop singer. I think he's one of the most engaging pop singers today. I enjoyed his new album too. He's not asked to do a lot in this movie in general.
Yeah,
no. And I think, the heavy lifting is really in Florence Pugh's court, Chris Pine's court as well. I think he does fine. I think he does fine here. He kind of has one reviewer or one critic mentioned it. The camera loves, like, he's got these angular features. I'm not comparing him in talent or acting skills, but he kind of has like a Frank Sinatra thing going on.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely can see that.
He's just got the figure and the youthfulness of it too, and the charisma. And obviously that dance number too is geared towards his strengths. But so yeah, I didn't mind him. People that are really harping on his performance, I didn't think he was offensive in any way. I thought he was fine, and I thought even like his one big like dramatic outburst scene, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I thought it was good too.
Florence Pugh has the heavy lifting of this movie, and she does well. The acting is not what hurts this movie. I think top to bottom, the acting is pretty decent, is good enough.
If there's anyone railing on, like, really railing on the acting, that it's all from that's all Twitter drama.
That's all. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the Twitter drama. They have probably even seen the movie. They saw that clip. They saw the Twitter drama. They're like, I got this movie down to a T. I will say this too. I thought the first 20 to 30 minutes of this movie was really interesting. I was like really with it. I was like really like wrapped up in the mystery and everything of this movie. I think it has a great like opening sequence and everything, despite the fact, like, Steve knows this too. This has been happening to me a lot lately. I keep going to the theater by my house rather than going to AMC because sometimes just the show times and distance are more convenient. And classic cinema, they don't do 30 trailers like AMC does. Classic cinema is like, we do 2 and the movie starts. You're either here or you're not. And this movie, Fall, and Bodies, I went to go see at that theater, and all 3 times I walked in, the movie started as like I was getting like concessions or buying my ticket, and I got an alert while I was buying the ticket. I was just like, Jesus Christ, man, like, give me a second. Like,
that's our Lord and Savior Nicole Kidman smiting you for complaining about
exactly. Nicole Kidman gives you that buffer period to go to concessions and everything.
You know, she talks so slow and she's so stiff to walk up the stairs that, you know what I mean? It's like it's slow motion. It's like 0.5 YouTube speed over here. But
I like I was saying, I think the opening to this movie is great. I mean, I was even talking about, like, you know, all the stuff I was mentioning that were positive about this movie, the aesthetic and everything. Like, it really shines through in that opening 20 minutes to 30 minutes even. It really, like, embraces it there.
I can agree. You know, now here's the thing. Now, this is probably where we seg to negatives here. And there are a few of them, just to say the least. But I think, and this is the problem, like, and it almost makes me upset that I got like excited for this thing, really. I mean, how could you not? It's a good cast. You know, Olivia Wilde, hot off of Booksmart, a very well made, I give it 4 stars, very well made comedy drama, kind of the female Superbad, even though it's so much more than that, I think, as a movie. So I you know, you had to be excited for this thing in a way, but it's the problem with most of these cult movies that aren't cult horror movies. When you think of like cult horror movies like Midsommar and like The Sacrament and these cult horror movies, like you rarely go into a horror movie expecting elite character development. So you're not really offended if you don't get it. You look towards maybe other elements of the production. The problem with cult movies and cult dramas and thrillers specifically is that there's not a lot to humanize at the end of the day. It's like the inherent flaw that these movies can't get over. Like, I'm not a big fan of both Stepford Wives, both the original and the Nicole Kidman led remake, because these cult movies, everybody is a clone. Everybody's identical to each other. Everybody's like just blissfully ignorant and everything. There's no real development there outside of the one person who realizes that it's all a sham.
Yeah.
You know, and then she's crazy and everybody else looks at her and gaslights her. Like, it's a trope. So, like, as cool as it is to see like Gemma Chan and Kiki Lane and Nick Kroll, they don't do a lot. They don't add a lot. Not even Olivia Wilde adds a lot to the whole thing. So you're left with Pine, Pugh, and Styles. And Styles is, again, the novice between 2 veterans, The Rock and A Hard Place. And then you have just a movie that, I don't know, it's very surface. This movie feels like there's another gear that it never hits. Am I off base in saying that?
I completely agree. Dom, I'm sorry if I literally jumped the gun here, but like, I've been itching to say this since I saw the movie.
Go for it.
Steve, you once again, you hit it right on the head there as well. When it came to just the characters in this movie, I didn't feel like I didn't feel attached to anybody in this movie, and they really play up like two of the characters like in this movie, like they're suffering and we should care for them, and it's like you spend no time with them for me really to give a damn, and it's like I hate to say that because it's like I want to give this movie a chance because I was looking forward to this movie for all the reasons that Steve listed. But the reason, Steve, what was it exactly that you said? What was the question you asked?
I feel like this movie promised a lot more than it delivered in the realms of like its themes.
Yeah. And the reason why it feels like that to me is because with these kind of movies, I'm going to use Jordan Peele for an example. I hate to bring him up because I saw so many people on Twitter being like, this is the movie if a white woman tried to write a Jordan Peele movie. And it's just like, well, Olivia Wilde didn't write it, guys. So, but using his movies as an example, like, whether or not you're getting what he's putting down in terms of like, something that's like an allegory for something in the modern world, like Get Out or even Nope, and Us, there are still fun characters here and you're enjoying the ride the entire time. It's a funny script and everything. This movie is devoid of that. And so you're sitting there and you're watching the same thing happen over and over and over again. Florence Pugh sees something weird and wacky. She tries to tell someone about it, whether it be Harry Styles or best friend Olivia Wilde or anybody, and they're like, "Oh, Alice, you're just crazy. Get out of here." And then like she'll see another crazy thing. "Alice, you're crazy. Get out of here." "No, I'm not insane." Blah blah blah. And you're just like, okay, this movie is literally for the first two acts doing that over and over again, and it's only amusing the first two times. When we're like an hour and 45 minutes in and we still don't have an inkling of what the hell is going on, then this twist better pay the hell off, because now I'm in the theater and now I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this movie dealing with themes of controlling women's bodies? Is it dealing with this? Now I'm starting to generate my own ideas because you're not keeping me entertained. I'm being distracted by all these images you're throwing at me of like, look at this weird, cool stuff we're doing. Could it possibly mean this? And it's just like, I don't know. You haven't given me a path really to take here. That like, it's very boring and just dull throughout the entire runtime of this film because it's just repeating itself.
What say you, D?
They really found a way to say the same thing about 15 different ways, and it really wore on. No, you're absolutely right. And the main draw for this movie, minus Harry Styles spitting or whatever, the telegram messages or whatever, the real draw of this movie is the mystery. And yes, when you don't develop that idea really all too much, again, the first half hour, I agree, is compelling. It's like, oh, is it a weapons facility? Is this like alternate universe 1960s where like the Soviets took over Canada? I don't know. Just random, you're thinking, you're guessing in the first half hour. But how long is this movie? It felt longer than it was, and that's not great. But however long it was, it at some point it's like, I really need something here to grab onto. And if it's not Florence Pugh, like just watching Florence Pugh get tortured is not in the same way, essentially, is really cool. Now, again, it's a technical feat. Steve, I don't know if you heard my wisecrack that, there's a surprising amount to compare between this movie and the Munsters in the way that, aesthetically it looks engaging. There are some cool cinematography here. There was clearly a lot of passion put into here. The acting, much more than given credit for, it was going pretty well, but ultimately just the writing kind of fails it. Now, not as harsh as freaking Monsters, but a mystery this deep, or at least portrays itself as this deep, needs to pay off that way. If it doesn't, you will see right through it. And I think a lot of people are coming out of this movie, maybe not articulating it well, blaming it on the wrong things, but at the end of the day, people will feel the lack of payoff, the lack of real, genuine tension, as opposed to just blasé. Oh, okay, it's just gas. This is the gaslighting movie, 1000%.
Yeah,
which is present in so many other cult movies, as you said. Yeah.
I always hate to read from my own review, but I will just say this. It says, I wrote at stevepulaski.com, I wrote in my review, Don't worry, darling concerns the idea that a patriarchal structure has led to the subjugation of women. And if that sounds like the no shit statement of any movie this year, that shows you how the film's depth is akin to a kiddie pool. And that's what it is, though, is like once you get past the fact, like about like almost to the end, like the third act, you're like, okay, the twist here was what, and I think like the trailers, how they sold this thing made it look deeper than it actually was.
Yeah.
So we were conceptualized, like Joe was just saying, some of those thoughts were actually my thoughts watching the movie, what Joe was saying, even what Dom added on to, you know, like, is this some sort of, you know, 60s recreation or something? And it's like, no, this is just the easy answer for a cult movie right here. This is just the easy answer. And then once that obvious twist is revealed, the film goes totally off the rails in the last 15 to 20 minutes. It goes totally out of control.
I don't even think it did that, man. I feel like in the last 15 minutes, it's like, okay, are we going to actually play with this idea? And it just chooses not to. And once again, repeats itself one more time in the same loop that we've been in for the entire movie. And then it throws like three things at you. It's like, oh, this person's known all along. This person was really in charge. This person, it was just like, what is happening? Next
Joe,
thing I know,
did you
when
ever,
the credits hit.
did you watch the Black Mirror episode USS Callister? It's the Star Trek parody.
Yeah.
It's not 1-to-1, but it's kind of like that in that a person is held captive in this situation that they don't know what they're in, and that there is a big scary person controlling it. They have to leave every now and then they come back, and it's like, what is this reality? What is this thing? But the one of the main pivotal differences between USS Callister, Black Mirror, and Don't Worry Darling is that Callister plays into, once the twist is revealed fairly early,
about like the,
or at least early enough,
30-minute mark, it's revealed.
Oh yeah, nice, yeah, early enough to like to play with it,
yeah,
so that the halfway through the episode you like build on it some more, and then the resolution is all them playing with those two worlds, playing with the rules of the world, playing with, okay, here's how they've captured us, here's like what the jail is, here's how I can break out of that jail, using very clever things here and there, all kinds of clever things in that, just in that one episode alone, not even a full movie.
It's amazing because, like, again, what this movie, the people who wrote this movie, like, I looked at the writing credits and they were like Chernobyl Diaries and stuff. So like, I'm just like, okay, all right, wasn't going in with like the best like thing when it came to writing. But like, I also look at them and I'm just like, maybe if you want to do something like this, because I feel like you had something here, but you just couldn't take connector B and connector A and put them together to make this thing feel whole. It was just like, you do have something here, and maybe watching an episode like USS Callister will show you how to do something like that, because not only is it done in like an hour and a half, that episode, but like everything that episode introduces in the first 20 to 30 minutes before that twist is revealed, they use all that information right there and they play with it. It
pays off.
Yeah, it pays off. It's like, okay, this is now how you play around with everything. Like, a lot of
the
people,
food stuff.
Yeah.
And Don't Worry Darling, what's up with like the empty eggs? Like, okay, cool, this is a cool moment.
What the hell was
like,
the
does
plane?
That pay off?
What was the plane? What was the plane?
What was that?
I was saying that throughout
Drew.
the whole movie. There's this, it's on the poster. I'm not ruining anything. They show it in the trailer multiple times. It's like supposed to be, it is the big, like, moment of the movie where like things begin to turn. And they don't answer it. They don't answer anything.
That's never resolved.
No. This twist actually makes you go back and look at this movie and go, none of this makes sense now. Everything you've shown me before this movie, why the hell is that happening?
The Gemma Chan scene, like, or it was a Kiki Lane. I'm mistaken on that one. I think it was Kiki Lane. Excuse me. The Kiki Lane.
Chris Pine's character's wife, right?
Yes.
That's Gemma Chan. Gemma Chan's Chris Pine's wife. Yeah.
Oh, indeed. Like that scene on the roof. I don't want to give it away.
Oh,
the scene on the roof, that doesn't make sense in the context of the larger of the larger scope once the twist is revealed. So it's sloppy plotting in that way, because even the foreshadowing didn't do any justice.
No.
It really didn't. And I don't think all three of us are lacking here. I think people are feeling this, even if they don't. again, I think people are placing the problems on the wrong thing.
They are, yeah.
But you can feel the lack of substance here at the end of the day. It's all like the characters in the movie are experiencing. This is all just kind of set dressing. What is really going on here? But they get their resolution. We don't.
It's really unfortunate too, because like a lot of people I've noticed said like the twist of this movie sucks. And, like, in some ways, I see why people say that, but in others, I'm like, no, it only feels like it sucks because we don't really spend time with it and we don't answer anything from it. Because
there's a good idea there.
There really is.
Great story
there's a great idea with that twist.
At least a workable idea.
But you didn't develop it enough to where it's like, this is not even half-baked. This is fucking raw. Like, it's like, it is as raw as that steak that Florence Pugh puts on the table 3 times in this movie, dude. It's not even seasoned. It's just like, we got it right there. We just gotta, we gotta put some like garlic on there, sprinkle some salt, put it in the oven.
There was a surprising amount of food in this movie than I realized. Now that I'm looking back on it.
Yeah, this movie hungry.
A lot of food.
Yeah, it was kind of like I said. There are certain scenes of this you could cut and probably make a pretty good like QVC infomercial B-roll with how much like food and stuff is used in this thing, but. That is where this movie really lacks, though, is that there's not much beneath the surface of this thing. No. And then by the time you realize it, it's like too late. You've spent already enough time with this thing, and you're like, let's just see how they stick the ending. And then when they don't, you're like, well, Jesus Christ, that was 6 months of like really decent marketing that just really crashed and left you with really nothing.
Dude, not even
outside of a couple good performances.
Not even 6 months. Olivia Wilde was sharing like stills of this movie back in 2020. I remember the still of Florence Pugh wrapping the cling wrap around her head, and I went, "What the hell is this movie? I can't wait to see it." And so like I've been waiting since 2020 to see this.
That scene is just a repeat of the other like 7 times where she does something crazy to prove if she's real or not. And it's like, we get it. Okay.
You see, at the time, I thought it was cool in the context of things.
Oh no,
I was like,
it is.
Oh yeah.
This is symptomatic of the whole thing. It is a really cool idea. It's a really cool shot. It's a really intense moment on paper. It's a great YouTube clip. That's a great YouTube clip. It's a great GIF.
It's a great meme or still.
Yeah, memes aside, but it's a great like showcase of like, oh damn, this is really it's a lot. It invokes a lot of intrigue.
Yeah. It's attention getting. It's what you want in a teaser promotional clip.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's really unfortunate, like, because they're like again, like I said, it's not even half baked because like. They throw so much stuff at the end of the movie. You're like, that doesn't wait. If this person is this, how did they? And it's just like I was just sitting there, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna try to figure this all out once the movie ends. Because like when they threw that twist out there, I was like, okay, hold on, this is not making sense. But I'm gonna give this movie a chance. And like Steve said, man, that movie just literally falls in like just. I don't know what the hell is that. You know what? I take it back. I told Steve, I'm like, I don't think it got insane at the end. Now that I think about it, that last 5 minutes was. Really just insanity. Like they just didn't know what to do. They just started blowing stuff up for no reason. Literally blowing stuff up. And
it just went off the rails. It just went off the rails. And again, like a lot of people are going to blame Olivia Wilde, and she, you know what I mean? She's involved. I'm sure she had input on the story, but I mean, the movie is a work of a collaborator that she's worked with for quite some time in Katie Silverman. Yeah. And it's really Silverman's script too that I think doesn't do this movie a lot of favors.
You can blame both, and it doesn't invoke a lot of confidence in Spider-Woman going forward, unfortunately. Because I never saw Booksmart. Apparently that's good.
Yeah, Wilde is directing Spider-Woman.
Oh yeah. God.
Apparently is Booksmart good?
Yeah, it's
Booksmart's very good.
I haven't seen it.
Very
Isn't
good.
it romantic? That seemed to like crash on Arrival.
Which one?
Isn't it romantic? Which was
the person that wrote this movie wrote that movie. That's actually a fun rom-com. That actually gave me hope for this movie too because it plays.
I didn't love it. I didn't love it personally, but yeah, the Rebel Wilson movie. I didn't love it personally, but I'm not going to stand on a table.
That movie did such a good job of playing with the idea of being trapped inside of a rom-com. So like. When this movie was going, I was like, I'm like, they did a decent job with that. I bet they could do a good job here. No, it's like, I guess not.
So apparently also, if we're going hard, then we need to go full blame. The original spec script for Don't Worry Darling was written by brothers Carey and Shane Van Dyke.
Yeah.
And then Katie Silberman was brought on to do rewrites and like actually flesh it out.
Yeah, this was like the most popular script on like the 2019 Blacklist, I think I read.
Oh, okay.
This was like the most popular spec script, which if you don't know what the Blacklist is, that's like a list of spec scripts that are like either hot commodities or movies that have attempted to be made in recent years that haven't been made yet.
Oh, what's that Willem Dafoe movie where he just shoots wildly in the air?
There's been a few movies that have come off the Blacklist.
I was going to say, there's been a few movies where Willem Dafoe does that.
But I mean, no, like looking at it again using Wikipedia for the assist. I remember Argo was one of the big movies that was on the Blacklist. Juno, The Descendants, the George Clooney
that's
movie.
Funny. That's ironic.
Argo was on the Blacklist for years, and that was like probably the biggest success story to come off the Blacklist. Another one too that was excellent that came off the Blacklist was Hell or High Water.
Yeah. Starring Chris Pine.
Starring Chris Pine again. Yeah, there you go. We can
piss me off. What is this movie? Jesus Christ. The Boondock Saints.
Oh, okay.
That was
the Boondock Saints.
That was a spec script. I don't know if it was off that list, but it was the hottest script in Hollywood for a while, and then it came out.
Because a lot of people thought you couldn't make that movie without making it NC-17, just with the bevy of violence in that damn thing. I know we're in that awkward spot now between the intermission where I don't want to rush us into our full thoughts or, and I don't want to rush us into giving it, but I think we'll take a break early, come back, give our final thoughts on Don't Worry, Darling, and then round it out with the Rust discussion. That sound good?
Yeah.
We'll be back in just about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, live on YouTube. Finish up talking Don't Worry, Darling next on Sleepless with Steve. Sponsored intermission. It is Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. Finishing up our thoughts about Don't Worry, Darling. And I'll start closing thoughts here. It's always disappointing when you go into a movie with expectations and you're disappointed. And it's also even more disappointing when it's a movie you anticipated for a long period of time, or at least, a period of several months. Because the way movies come out nowadays and the way movies are marketed, the window of marketing is so much shorter. So the anticipatory element is closed a lot, especially with streaming releases. You don't really realize or discover their existence until like 2 weeks or a week, or sometimes a couple days before the damn thing drops. So Don't Worry, Darling was kind of classical in its way of like dragging this thing and building it over the course of months to the point where it was like, this was one of the most anticipated movies of the fall. And I kind of compared it to, it's not this bad, but it's, I mentioned it to you guys. I said it's kind of like Dear Evan Hansen in the way that, like, Dear Evan Hansen was a highly anticipated, like a movie that was, you could tell the marketing and everything they put behind the thing. It was supposed to be a pretty big fall staple. But then Ben Platt shot himself in the foot with his comments beforehand. The movie opened to really bad reviews, and that like tanked all the buzz for it. It didn't happen with this though, because this one is still making money, and I think the cast really sold the intrigue on this. But this is a lot. To make a reference to the food element here that we were talking about. This movie uses a lot of gratuitous images and sequences involving gourmet food and everything. This is kind of like a meal in search of calories in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of good dishes and side dishes here. There's a lot of really nice silverware. There's a lot of really nice platters, but there's not a lot of really nutritional value with this thing, other than the fact that, like, some things are decent and other things are just downright undercooked to continue to ham home this element. I guess we can say that Olivia Wilde has fallen victim to the sophomore slump, and I think the sooner she puts this mess behind her, between the promotional element of this thing and the execution of this thing, I think the better for us all. Cross your fingers on Spider-Woman. I still think she's got good movies in her, I really do, but this isn't one of them. So 2 out of 4 for me. I have a feeling Joe isn't going to be as kind with his rating.
Man, if you would have talked to me yesterday, I would have probably given this 2 out of 4 stars. And then I went to sleep and I woke up, sat at work and went, wait, hold on. I was saying that I should have been getting work done, but I was just like, this didn't make sense. And this didn't make sense. And I hate doing that with a movie. Because, like, I came out of it, I felt one way, and it just sucks when you come out of a movie and you feel like, okay, that wasn't as bad as people were making it out to be, but it wasn't good. I'm like, I'm going to give it 2 stars. And then the longer you think about it, you go, whoa, wait, hold on a minute. No, yeah, this movie has problems. When you guys brought up that she's directing Spy, I went, oh, man, like, it's not because I think Olivia Wilde's a bad director now. I don't. I still think she can still be, and is a good director. It's just, when I hear Sony makes more Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man, it's not the best track record. And I just don't want Olivia Wilde to, put herself in that, and if that movie sucks, then that's just more reason for her career probably going bad now with this movie on top of it. Yeah, man, for me, like, it all falls apart as the movie goes along, and that really sucks to say, because I never want to have it where a movie, the longer it goes on, the more and more I'm getting frustrated with it. I thought, the first 20, 30 minutes is cool. It looks cool. It has some great ideas that really, really need to be fleshed out. And if anything, I mean, like, I got to look at Gemma Chan, so I guess it's not a 1-star movie, so it's 1.5 stars for me.
Oh, we're still just guys at the end of the day. Dom, what say you?
Well, I am not sexist, so Nah, man. I'll say this: two stars, 2 out of 4 stars, because I agree that this is empty calories. If we're leading into the food thing here, but it's empty calories. It's like an egg without anything in it. But it's not necessarily like it's not aggressively bad,
Yeah.
It's not like it's like toxic chemicals in your food or whatnot. It's not junk food. It's just disappointing, right? It doesn't fill you up, and you're just left like, damn, I was really hoping for this to pull through. So, yeah, you gentlemen took the words right out of my mouth. 2 out of 4 stars for this movie, and I hope everyone does better.
Yeah,
I hope everyone does better. Honestly, from this, both professionally and personally, because shit was going down. Yeah, man.
that is true. Yeah.
I hope everybody's like happy and in good spirits with this thing. But I will reiterate though that music for a sushi restaurant remains my favorite thing Harry Styles has done all year. That song slaps.
And another thing too is that this at least made its money back and then some. So WB at least didn't have a bomb on their hand, which this and Black Adam were the 2 movies that were like, we need you to at least make your money back.
No, I didn't even think about that. That's honestly true. I didn't even think about that. Given the sorry ass state of Warner Brothers Discovery now, yeah, they needed this to at least be a decent hit.
Yeah.
I didn't even put two and two
They
together.
probably were the ones stirring stuff up at Venice Film Festival. They were just like, all right, you go spit on Chris Pine. We'll give you an extra $1 million. I think Steve just froze.
Yeah, man, he can't realize that either.
Oh, there he is. Okay, he's back.
There he is.
I am back. I froze.
I was about
for
to
a
say,
minute.
all right, here we go, Dom. Alec Baldwin, talk about him.
If I locked up there for a second, I do apologize.
That's what he's gonna do anyway. But I wonder if he's gonna lead me in or not.
Yeah.
Yes, I was basically going to pass the peace pipe, if you will, over to Dom with this one to lead this because I usually give the heavier stories to Dom. I make Dom do the heavy lifting, and I'm over here like Clerks 3. Let me review it. You know, let me talk about cable networks. Yeah, exactly. I take the stories. I take the stories on the lead, like, oh, Rob Zombie's got a new movie, The Munsters. But we can hopefully put this story to bed now. Unless I guess next time we'll talk about it is maybe we'll review it. Who knows? This is going to be a goddamn doozy to review no matter what. But
we're reviewing this movie. I'm just saying that right now. This is
kind of have to.
Yeah, out of respect. No, I don't know.
But so you remember it was about a year ago. I think October 21st. It was almost a year ago that the internet exploded and. Man, it was like, I mean, it didn't take long for things to get hostile and controversial and ugly. But I remember those first couple days reading it just being sad by the story of Rust and the accidental onset shooting at the hands of Alec Baldwin that killed Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, on this relatively low budget Western drama called Rust. And we don't really need to rehash this. I think everybody knows sort of the circumstances, at least tangentially. It's been quiet because it's still, I understand it too. It's still under investigation by the
criminal investigation still ongoing.
The Santa Fe Police Department, the investigators, I think the FBI has been brought in on some elements of this too. So no, like the criminal investigation of this thing is still ongoing, but there has been a settlement, and I will lead you into Dom right now to give you the inside scoop on that.
Yeah. So civil cases, criminal cases. Civil is more like, oh, my coffee's too hot and I spilled it all over me, which is a classic case of, the story being twisted another way for that poor woman. But anyway, civil case has been settled out of court with Alec Baldwin. Criminal investigation still underway. And so we'll see something about that. And in my opinion, that is good because someone freaking died. Someone did not do their job and someone died because of it. That is criminal negligence, or at least, it's seeming like criminal negligence. We'll see what comes out of it. It may be criminal negligence. But that has been settled. The civil case has been settled out of court. And now the widower, Matthew Hutchins of Helena Hutchins, is now the executive producer of this film, taking the reins of this movie, which is, I don't know emotionally how you do that. Your wife, this whole product that you are taking the reins of, maybe sharing executive producer, but still, in some way, taking the reins of, it claimed your wife's life. So that, he took that on, and I, good luck to him emotionally. But that's and they are finishing the movie. They are actually going through with the movie because when this first came out, I was like, we're never seeing the light of day on this because it's
we all thought that.
Yeah, straight up dead. And it's like, Jesus Christ, I feel dirty watching this. I think back to Deadpool 2, when the stunt woman on the bike scene, she died as a result of this movie. And I was like, man, that's going to be awkward to watch this movie. Thinking about that now, and watching it, still a great time. But I still wound up watching it, and when the bike scene was like, oh, there it is. Someone died because of this freaking scene right here. At least it wasn't Triple X, but in any case, the Triple X sequel. But in any case, no. all levity aside, yeah, dude, it's going to be an interesting movie to review once we all watch it. Because I'm saying we are definitely all in on reviewing this movie just because it dominated the last quarter, fiscal quarter of 2021, because it was the story. And how could it not be? Because it brought all kinds of things into place: workplace negligence, the unions, scabbing,
spiders,
guns.
Firearms. It's like, should all weapons be replaced by
don't
CGI
forget that
now?
Not to interrupt you, don't forget the landscape at the time with the IATSE strike.
Yeah,
exactly, 100%. That's what it was pulled into as well. That was the story, and should have been the story, and was the story for the,
because it was like 2 weeks before we were talking about that. We made that a significant part of the show, deservedly, the IATSE strike. And then this happened, and my first reaction was like, beyond my first reaction was holy shit, and like, God, I can't imagine Hutchins' family. My second or third reaction was like, this is what IATSE was talking about. This is why they threatened the strike.
Yeah. So this is about half settled, at least civilly. We'll see if Santa Fe PD says anything about that. Knowing how Hollywood is, knowing how powerful people are in charge, it'll probably get punted down to some poor bastard who, if they are responsible, then they're responsible. But maybe the trails will be covered. Maybe there's no way to go after the real people in charge. It's hard to say. Maybe it's a story 5 years from now for a YouTuber to go over and really investigate true crime. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
that one guy.
In that case,
really happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those really sad stories. At the end of the day, Mrs. Hutchins is no longer with us. A Ukrainian descendant, by the way. That that family cannot be having a great time this year.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy life that woman led. I would love to see a book come out on her, because apparently she was raised in like the Arctic Circle on a Soviet base, watching like nuclear submarine. No, I'm serious. CBS was reporting that. I'm like, Jesus, this woman's life is crazy interesting, and unfortunately, kind of went out in a crazy way as well. So Jesus Christ. But in any case, all that aside, or at least for now, it was interesting to also look at the state of what that whole kind of movement, or rather push for like stricter gun tightening in the movie industry, particularly the world for armorers. The Hollywood Reporter released a article back in June 30th, pretty damn good one, exploring like, okay, it's been 6 months or 8 months since this happened. A critical moment for all these people. That's a landmark. No armorer going into this business from now on will not reference this incident. It's going to be on every safety video, every class, every, not just even this world, but also OSHA, firearms training. They're all going to be talking about this Alec Baldwin Rust shooting incident. And, as the world turns, airsoft guns, that's kind of the happy medium. It's like, okay, is this going to be like just blocks of wood now, and then CGI will take over from there? Kind of halfway. Airsoft guns have taken the mantle for a lot of the bigger studios, the budgets that can afford too much to lose, But the Hollywood Reporter also interestingly found out that a pattern that, the bigger studios are doing this, they're taking more precautions, but the smaller productions, the ones where it's more likely for things to go wrong, a little more scabbing, not as much money in the coffers to afford those armorers, they are not doing this. They're doing it the old way. Now, having been settled out, I think it's safe to say, had protocol been followed, we said this back then too, even the first time we talked about this, had protocol been followed, it would have been fine, right? It would have been safe, because the protocols are written in such a way where this is unavoidable. You have to check. You have to look in the chamber. You have to say, this is I am doing this, I'm shooting this, blah, blah, blah. All the checks are there, like any accident involving firearms, right? It's like, oh, how did this baby get a hold on this firearm that killed their parent? The gun was just there and fully loaded on the nightstand, as opposed to in its proper place. That's just how these things happen. And I think the debate is kind of settled where oh, no more guns on any sets whatsoever. It all has to be CGI, just blocks of wood or just empty. It's like, I think we kind of overcorrected there, and I think we finally settled it. Okay, you know what? Sure, that's fine. But now the armorers, because one dude didn't do his job, or more importantly, because a certain group of producers decided to not go the proper route, go the proper union route, go the proper protocol route. That this, now all the armorers who did do their job properly are now paying the price. No one wants to go with them anymore. No one wants to, pay for the armors. Oh, let's just do airsoft. And now the seemingly thing where now poor Marvel, more pressure on those CGI artists to do more work. Dude, it's a ripple effect, man.
Yeah, because the studios that are going to be able to afford that are going to just cut that corner to begin with.
Funny enough, yeah.
Well, is it The Rock came out with his whole production studio? He's like, yeah, we're not using like any kind of firearm on set anymore. So like,
it's too risky. It's too risky. I mean, when you have to, like Dom said it just a couple of minutes ago, when you have too much to lose. When you have too much to lose,
and
you have money to negate. I mean, like, what's the L word that every business hates? Liability. It's a liability. I mean, the insurance costs are already astronomical. You ask any independent filmmaker what one of the most expensive damn things is on any movie set, and it's half the time. It's not the camera and it's not the lighting equipment. It's insurance.
Yeah.
It's actor and on set insurance. And the studio's like, it's, like you said, it's going to put pressure on the poor Marvel, CGI artists who already worked to death to begin with. But it also too, like, there's too much to lose. They have the means to do that and to demand that versus these other smaller projects. What is this, a $7.5 million movie?
Yeah. And to put some kind of legalese behind the whole petering out of the, push to like ban all guns. There were two separate bills in the California legislature pushed by two separate unions. And that kind of fizzled out. They was like, hey, can we come together? It was like, one was more firearms, laser focused. One was more like just general set safety, which is, I'm sure, a good thing. But, I haven't looked into the actual legalese of it all. But, I think that's kind of settled. And now it's just the repercussions of, the pin in this story really is someone didn't do their job on two levels. The actual armorers or people who were assigned the role of armor didn't do their job, and also the producers cut costs. They didn't go the union route. They didn't follow protocol, and this is what you get. You get what you pay for, and now it's affected the whole industry. Hundreds, thousands of people, ripple effect, gets screwed over because of these dumbasses, and and most importantly, it cost someone's life.
Hard to follow up that, man, because like I said, a lot of my ideas were what you said too. And I went back to reading these articles, reading the news today. You actually saw it before I did. Reading the news today, I went back to, I remember it was the very first thing, Dom, you said when this whole story broke, the very first time we addressed the Rust shooting incident. I remember what you said, and I delegated a lot to you during that discussion too. I kind of just talked about the overarching human element stuff. I left the background and the technicalities to you because you can summarize that better than I can. I remember what you said. You said protocols are only effective when you follow them.
That line is taken from Zero Dark 30, where that plays out exactly like that. Oh, you don't want to scan this car for bombs? Boom, there it goes. Right there. The lesson is right there. And
I'm paraphrasing it, but you said protocols are only effective if they're followed. If people,
and I'm sure maybe they took it from somewhere else too. But that is, protocol. Oh, protocol only works when you do it every time. I think that's
what it was.
Protocol only works when you do it every time, and there you are.
That's why it's protocol.
Exactly.
And I find it interesting though. You brought it up that Matthew Hutchins is going to executive produce this thing.
I can't imagine.
Which I can't imagine how hard it is. I think there's definitely an element. And this is where, like, the carefully manicured PR approved Instagram post from Alec Baldwin, you take that what you will. But in the line he uses in there where he says, throughout this difficult process, everyone has maintained the specific desire to do what is best for Helena's son and to honor her work and her craft. I think Matthew Hutchin putting his name on executive producer, whatever his role is going to be, I think that shows you at least, and it might, like, it's not a contentious thing. It's not like an FU settlement. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Where there's, I don't think they're going to go get beers after the movie shot and everything's all done. But I think that I don't think there's any true hatred on Hutchins' family towards Alec Baldwin and the producers of this movie and Joel Souza, the director. That was what clued me in. It was like, they must have really ironed this out and been like, we want to honor Helena. What can we do?
And on top of that, it's just good to know. It's like, all right, we moved on. Cool. We're going to finish this movie, get our money back. No, it's not feeling like that because the widower is involved. Yeah.
No, and it kind of lessens the idea. Like the whole fact that this thing is going to resume shooting in January could be a hot button controversial thing in and of itself. But I think Matthew Hutchins signing on to being an executive producer and presumably going to be involved with the production. I absolutely think that doesn't even, I don't think, equate to PR there. I think that's honestly an endorsement there.
We'll see. Day one, he might arrive on set, turn around and be like, I can't do this, and then drops out.
Knows?
All power to him, man. I can't imagine.
Who knows? You would. I feel like almost any decision he could make in the realm of this is like justified. You know what I mean? Like it's so complicated and it's so hard, and it's like I can't imagine day one going back to shooting that thing after the holidays and everything like that, which is going to be a miserable time for that family.
Yeah.
Like, especially, like Dom brought up a good point too, they're Ukrainian, so like that's just been a huge and think about the Ukrainian war, the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, whatever you're calling it. That happened, like 4 or 5 months? That started, 5 months after Helena was killed? Yeah. I can't imagine that family. Joe, final word on the Rust settlement.
Look, man, if you guys are going to resume filming, because, I mean, I'm not going to add on to what you guys said. You guys are slowly hitting all the notes I want to talk about. Look, if you're going to resume filming, make sure everything on set is fine. Because, I mean, this wasn't the only incident on set. We had the spider bite. We had other things that were happening on set. There was, I think there was a sanitary thing also happening on the set as well. So
also to add on to the spider bite thing, an almost fatal spider bite. Someone went to the hospital.
Yeah, that dude almost lost his arm. Spider. His whole ass arm.
Yeah. We're not just saying a spider.
Go back and read that, man. That was terrifying. Like I saw that and like it was like, holy crap. Sorry to cut you off there, Joe.
No, you're good. I'm fighting Barty Baby and Barty Bart in the chat right now.
Oh, okay.
I got distracted by that. I probably shouldn't have acknowledged him. Anyways, yeah, man. I mean, it's just like, it's whatever. It's it's not whatever. Actually, sorry. What I meant to say was, it's something they need to actually keep up with. It's something they need to be aware of when they start resuming. Because, dude, if another incident like this happens on set, whether it be a death or an injury at this point, I don't think this movie is going to even bother coming out at that point then. I mean, I think hey, if you guys want to still resume filming with it, and if, like, the husband's on board as an executive producer and whatnot, all right, go ahead. But don't let anything else happen, because then it's going to show to me that you didn't learn from your mistakes. But I know we will talk about the movie, because it is a Sleepless Rushmore, news piece that we always talked about, like, week after week. So we'll just have to wait and see till then.
Indeed, yeah, we'll talk Rust whenever it does come out. I don't know. I don't know when it's projected. Like I said, they're starting to resume it, and they're going to start resuming filming in January. So we shall see. On that note, great show as always, gentlemen. It's always good to chat with two of my favorite people about movies on a day like today, on a Wednesday evening, even as I was had a coughing fit there earlier. So I appreciate you flying the plane, and unlike the plane in Don't Worry, Darling, there was some closure there. Next week we're tackling Amsterdam. Kind of a go either way movie here. The first movie in several years from David O. Russell that comes out this weekend. Robert De Niro's in it. Margot Robbie is in it. Christian Bale's in it. Taylor Swift is in it. Mike Myers. Pretty sure Mike Myers is in this one too.
Is this by the same dude who did Valentine's Day and New Year's Eve?
No, you're thinking that's Gary Marshall. That's Gary Marshall.
Because when you said Taylor Swift, I'm like, what the frick? What?
This is the guy who did American Hustle and
Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah.
Joy.
Okay, then I have more confidence in it, although apparently maybe I shouldn't.
I Heart Huckabee was another one. I Heart Huckabee was another one too. So yeah, there are a lot. There are a lot of movies they draw a comparison with in the realm of David O. Russell. But we will leave it there. We're back next week with Amsterdam review and whatever news happens to hit the Sleepless desk. Shout out to Joe Viso, running the board, doing what he's got to do to make this show live and in living color, as well as disciplined bots in the chat. We sincerely appreciate that as well. For Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.